Hello there and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. On this program, we'll bring you factual analysis around development and issues in the world of business, economy, finance, commerce, and also bring you updates from the stock market. I am Christiana Amoduwotinya. Thank you for joining in on the program today. First, we begin with the headlines. We start from the aviation sector. Nigerian airlines have sent out warning as fuel subsidy returns. There may be flight disruptions. And to the NBS now, the National Bureau of Statistics says the third quarter 2022 company income tax stands at 810.19 billion naira. We'll bring you more stories during the business roundup segment of the program. I'll take a short breather. When I come back, time to go into the stock market. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's get straight into the stock market. Of course, as is our tradition, we begin from the customs street, talking about the Nigeria exchange that has stayed resiliently bullish for some time now, although we have seen market breadth enter into negative territory. Now, the Nigeria exchange finished higher, 0.20%, while the all share index settled at 49,416.18. Now, for activity levels, a total volume of 100.09 million shares, valued at 1.3 billion naira, changed hands in 3,186 deals on the floor of the local bourse. The equity cap settled at 26.91 trillion naira. Let's also tell you that the Nigerian exchange just recently launched a tech board that is supposed to have tech startups coming, and Nigerians can also take that into consideration when investing in the stock market. Let's go over to other African markets. Of course, talking about Africa's largest stock exchange, JSE in South Africa, up 0.37%, while in Ghana, we are seeing the Ghana JSE down 0.20%. Unfortunately, the economic woes for the Gold Coast, talking about Ghana, is not the problem keeps coming up for the country, talking about issues around debt default, around trying to secure $3 billion from the International Monetary Fund. So a lot really happening for Ghana. And for South Africa is also not left out. Issues around the geopolitical space is also coming to play for South Africa. Let's go over now to Wall Street in the United States. Stock futures were higher Wednesday morning. Investors were digesting earnings from Nike and FedEx that sent both companies higher after hours of trading. So the markets are turning green in the U.S. The Dow Jones Industrial Average settled at 32,849.74, up 0.28%. For the S&P 500, we are seeing 3,821.62, up 0.10%. And for the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite, a marginal climb there, 0.01%. The Nasdaq is settling at 10,547.11. Of course, this is futures traded. In Wall Street, trading is about to commence 2:30 p.m. Nigerian time in the United States. For the Nigeria Stock Exchange, we know the local bourse here has, of course, opened. Let's go over to the European street. European markets opened in positive territory, reversing a negative trend seen in the previous trading session. So we are seeing all positives for Europe. Now, the FTSE 100 in the UK, 7,354.96, up 0.31%. The CAC 40 in France, the CAC 40, up 0.71% at 6,498.35. And the DAX in Germany is up 0.50% there. Now, for UK's news, business news coming up for the UK, of course, we understand that the prototype for the new pound sterling with the face of the king has, of course, been released. Of course, the phasing out of the old currency was not really abrupt. That is still going to be in circulation as the citizens are advised to also return the old currency. And when they go back to the banks in the UK, of course, they don't come out again. Now, we're seeing in Germany also issues around what's happening in Ukraine, the geopolitical tensions. Now, the President Zelensky of Ukraine is expected to get into Washington today. He's also still seeking for alliances for the Russian-Ukraine war, which we have seen lingered for some time now, affecting the global supply chain, affecting global economics, affecting also the food inflation issues. Let's go over now to Asia. Markets in Asia Pacific traded mixed after Wall Street ended its 4-day losing streak as global bonds rose after the Bank of Japan adjusted its yield curve control tolerance. So we are seeing that the markets in Asia staying dominantly flat. Now, still staying with the Asian region, Indonesia is also expected to implement a ban on bauxite exports starting from June next year. President Joko Widodo announced in the briefing broadcast the ban is seen to be a part of a wider government move to stimulate domestic processing of the mineral resources in Indonesia. Now let's go over to the commodities market and see what's happening with commodities prices. What does the chart look like? So we have more reds over green here for the commodities market. Brent crude, the international benchmark for crude oil, $79.68 per barrel, down 0.39%. Now oil prices, now on Wednesday, there were little change as we are seeing larger than expected draw in U.S. crude stocks, offsetting worries over rising COVID-19 cases in top oil importer China. Now the Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman said in an interview with the Saudi state news agency that OPEC Plus members leave politics out of the decision-making process and out of the assessment and forecasting. Now we are seeing a lot of this news coming in, affecting what we are seeing sentiment in the oil market. For silver, $23.95 there, down 0.87%. For the bullion, the yellow metal gold, shedding 0.09% at $1,815.85. That's for what's happening with gold. Gold prices are inching lower, and we are seeing the dollar regaining ground. Remember, there's an inverse relationship between the yellow metal, the gold, and the dollar. So when we see the dollar go up, we see a softer price for gold. For agro commodities, we are seeing palm oil gaining over almost 3% there, $3,963 per metric ton. Now let's go over to the cryptocurrency market and see what's happening with that market. Now Bitcoin $16,823, down 0.42%. Ethereum down 0.42% equally, $1,210.99. For the Binance coin, $248.05, down 1.37%. We're also having comments about the cryptocurrency market. India's central bank governor is saying the next financial crisis will come from the private cryptocurrencies. He was speaking at a summit and he said he stands firm that cryptocurrencies should be prohibited, adding that it has no underlying value and poses risk for macroeconomic financial stability. So there's a whole lot of storm going on in the cryptocurrency market. The big question now is, when will the storm be over? That's a question a lot of people are asking, especially as it relates to cryptocurrencies. It's important, invest in what you understand. Do not invest in what you do not know. That's the much we can take for the numbers. These are numbers we have to crunch for you today. However, now let's bring to you a roundup of business stories. Take a listen.
Nigerian airlines have issued a warning that aircraft operations may be disrupted due to return of fuel scarcity. Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, issued the warning in a statement on Tuesday titled Imminent Disruptions in Scheduled Flight Operations Due to the Paucity of Aviation Fuel, popularly known as Jet A1. Spokesman of AON, Obiora Okonkwo, said in a statement that the unanticipated outcome is a hardship on airline operators and a strain on the industry, especially at this time of huge movement of people for the Christmas and New Year festivities. Okonkwo urged the relevant authorities, particularly importers and marketers of goods, to make every effort to address the fuel shortage in order to lessen the burden it would place on the traveling public. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says the total company income tax, CIT, for Q3 2022 was 810.19 billion naira. According to the NBS company income tax Q3 report, the figure represents a growth rate of 13.41% on a quarterly basis from 714.4 billion naira in Q2 2022. The report maintained that on a quarterly basis, agriculture, forestry and fisheries saw the largest growth rate, which was 75.38%, followed by the arts, leisure and recreation activities, 93.33%. The survey shows that the top three sectors with the biggest shares in Q3 2022 were manufacturing at 287.6%, information communication 27.31%, and banking and insurance 8.81%.
Thank you for that business roundup. Now, our focus on today's edition on the program will be on Nigerians' borrowings, especially as the year 2022 wraps up. Now, looking at the level at which Nigeria's debt stock has hit, over 44 trillion naira, and a lot has been said as to borrowings are not bad. Countries have to borrow to invest in infrastructure. Also looking at Nigeria's GDP to debt, debt to GDP ratio, and debt to revenue ratio. Some have also opined that it's really an issue of a revenue crisis for Nigeria. While on the other end of the divide, we've had conversations around the fact that the time to act is now. As the former head of the IMF said, Christine Lagarde, she did say at one of the annual meetings when she was still heading the Bretton Woods institution that it is pertinent to repair the roof while the sun is still up. How then can the whole debt stock situation find respite for Nigerians? How can this be addressed? Especially looking into a new year, a new economic calendar year. The clock is ticking for 2023 to come in. What then should be the way forward? I have Aliu Audu joining me, economist and public affairs analyst, and he will be speaking to some of these issues. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I really want to get your opening statements in, say, 1 minute. Tell me, what's your assessment of the borrowings we have seen in this past 12 months, and also time from previous years culminating to this moment?
Okay, well, Nigerian borrowing has been increasing over time, and apparently our debt now is about external debt is about $40 billion, internal about 60, I guess, 50 to $60 billion, and is increasing. This is not good because this is increasing our debt to GDP ratio. You know, when your debt profile increases, other countries, it reduces your credit worthiness, because this is what people look at. Creditors look at before they are able to advance you credit. So it's important that our debt, the way it is now, we should look for other income streams and not continue to borrow and rely on borrowing.
Okay.
I think that's what is...
I want to hold you on that thought. I want to hold you on that thought. Of course, don't let all out of the arsenal yet. We'll take a short break. When we return, you get to hear more from my guest on really what's the way forward and also how a lot of these loopholes can be plugged. Please stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Or really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome to the program, and thank you for still staying there with us. This is still Business Daily, and we are coming to you from Trust Television, your channel of choice. Now, I still have my guest with me on the program. Is Aliu Audu, economist and also public affairs analyst. He's speaking to issues around Nigeria's borrowings, talking about Nigeria's debt stock. Some have said Nigeria is in a debt crisis, and there is a cogent need to ensure that some sort of rescuing is done in that system. I want you to land on your thoughts because you were talking about credit worthiness, especially how foreign investors, other nations look at our credit worthiness and how the high debt ratio affects it. I want you to land on your thoughts when you were mentioning that.
Yes. Normally, investors and creditors look at your debt profile, which is your debt to GDP ratio. When it's too high,
Okay, I think we're having some kind of glitch there with Aliyu Audu's network. Okay, we have him back now.
I'm here. Hello?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we
So
can hear
it just
you.
shows that if you have in relation to your GDP, it just shows that it will scare creditors and investors away because it shows that you're borrowing more than you're producing. So that's what it is. It is not a good sign to have for your borrowing profile to keep increasing. It is not a good sign. It scares investors and creditors away. We look for other income streams
Talking about
and
looking
invest in other
for
areas to generate revenue rather than borrowing. Borrowing is not good.
Talking about looking
I mean, it's
for
not a bad thing, but
other
high
income
borrowing is
streams.
not good, especially in relation to GDP.
Okay, talking about looking for other income streams now, especially at a time when Nigeria is looking for how to show up revenue in its coffers. And most times when I have this conversation, it sounds very cliche, but it's really an important point that needs to be put out there. What are the alternative options? You just mentioned that borrowings is not good. Some other experts on the other side of the divide will say borrowing is not the problem, it's how you expend monies that were borrowed. What are your sentiments with regards to this?
First of all, I don't know why we are not investing in other sectors. If you look at Qatar, where we just had the World Cup, if you look at Dubai, these people over time have taken their oil revenue and invested in tourism. We as a country, we have other sectors that we could invest in: agriculture, tourism, solid minerals. And we are not doing that. And these are other ways that we can generate good income streams, especially agriculture. You know, we import sugar. We have no business doing all these things. We are not investing where we are supposed to be investing so that we can reap in the future. We're not doing that. The allocation to the various sectors, agriculture, solid mineral, is very small. And our laws guarding our solid minerals is not very strong. To mine our solid minerals. And you hear of all the bandits. So there's a lot of leakages in the economy, and these are the other ways that we can generate revenue. Solid minerals, agriculture, there are countries doing it. And we are just focusing on our oil revenue. We are not investing. Look at tourism, for example. We have a very strong tourism potential. So these are the areas we are supposed to be investing in. We are not doing that. And that's why we are not moving, we are not at the place we are supposed to be. South Africa, for example, has a budget of about 120 billion. We are still having a budget of about 35 billion, and we have a larger economy. That just shows you that we are not producing. Our economy is stagnant. Being the largest economy comes with a lot of ingredients, and one of them should be a high budget. And that's not happening because our budget is less than half of South Africa's budget. And that is not good because we're a larger economy, but we're not producing. Is what they call, in layman terms, big for nothing. So there's nothing we can do about it. We have to invest in these critical areas if we want to increase our income streams. We are being very myopic and just borrowing and not investing it in the right sectors. The oil revenues that we're getting should have been invested in agriculture and solid minerals.
I want you to speak to how
take
then
off.
do we
Because
correct
in the future
curve?
now, nobody, even Saudi Arabia, is investing in tourism. So, and everybody's moving to green energy. So we don't have the time anymore. And again, another issue of borrowing and not using the money you borrowed for the right project, or is not being properly utilized, is another problem, because what it creates is a debt trap. You're borrowing to do railway, you're not doing the railway, then at the end of the day, which is the future generations, and that is not good. That is what we call debt trap. So we need to, when we borrow, invest it in the right infrastructure, and also we need to invest in other sectors, solid minerals, agriculture, tourism, in order to generate revenue.
I want you to speak to
a lot of other countries are doing, that they are moving on.
If you can hear me, I want you to speak to issues around some other alternatives that we can look at. You've spoken rightly about investing in agriculture, tourism, to be able to show up productivity, which will in turn show up the revenues we have, to have a big budget, like you have rightly stated, a budget that suits the giant of Africa. Now, I want you to speak to how cutting cost of governance can also come into this conversation, because remember what the Steve Orosai's report, he rightly said that there is a need to reduce the number of MDAs that we have in the country, to cut cost of governance, to cut even the recurrent cost, which we have seen a good chunk of resources go into. What are your thoughts on cutting the cost of governance vis-a-vis reducing Nigeria's debt stock?
Well, yes, cutting the cost of governance, very true, because there's a lot of expenses in government that I think they're unnecessary. I don't know about reducing MDAs, because I don't want a situation whereby we create unemployment. Civil service, the Nigerian civil service is a safety net for workers to, be able to go and work, because, they don't easily sack people like that. So if you now start talking about cutting down MDAs, then you're talking about Nigerians losing their employment. So I do not look at that part, because we have a high unemployment rate of 30%. So rather, there's a lot of leakages and wastages in the civil service system. We have a lot of ghost workers. This needs to be treated. And a lot of the cost of governance is also high. This needs to be reduced without necessarily reducing the number of employees. It is the cost of governance, because as you're borrowing, instead of you to borrow and put in and invest in capital project infrastructure, you are borrowing to even pay recurrent expenditures. That is not good. So you're right, cost of governance needs to reduce by a great deal. They need to re-audit the overall civil service system and reduce ghost workers, and only employ or pay the people that are actually working. So I believe an overhaul of the civil service system is in the right direction without necessarily reducing civil servants. But the cost of governance should be reduced.
Okay.
I'm very much in support of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
In 10 seconds, with issues with regards to what we are discussing, in 10 seconds, because of course time is far spent for us. What really is the lesson for you, especially looking at Nigeria's fiscal space going into the new year? What's the lesson to take away? And this lesson, how to also address it in the new year? Okay, let's say in 20 seconds.
Okay, I think first of all, we need to deal with the security issues, because a lot of investors are scared of coming to Nigeria to invest. And as they are afraid of coming to Nigeria, we're losing income to other countries like Ghana and other African countries. Nigeria, we have to tackle the security issue going into 2023 and create a better image for Nigeria. We just did a Nigerian Diaspora Investment Summit, and a lot of investors that can bring in and change the tide are afraid of bringing their money to Nigeria. Foreign direct investment is reducing because of insecurity. So we need to tackle the security issues so that, first of all, it will encourage investors and also allow productivity in terms of the agriculture. This will deal with inflation also.
Thank you so much.
Security is threatening a lot of other sectors of the economy: tourism, agriculture, and investors. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Aliyu Audu there speaking to us on issues around Nigeria's borrowing and also coming out from a debt trap, like he put it. Thank you for coming on the program today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that's where we call it a wrap for today's edition of Business Daily. I hope you have been able to take one or two things from today's program. Don't forget you can catch up on all updates in the world of business and news making the rounds in the polity on all our social media platforms as you have them displayed right up on your screen. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Continue to stay safe and goodbye for now.